Well, hello everyone. This is Mike Siver back with the Mike Siver Show. We've been away for a little while and we've regrouped ourselves. I have a guest tonight, Sherry Niss, and she's been on the show before. Tonight we're going to talk about no fences. And we're hoping we're going to be able to help some people out there and make some sense of what we're trying to get across. No fences, in my way of thinking, and Sherry and I have talked about this a little bit, is the fences that we build up that restrict us from growing and maturing, either intellectually, financially, business-wise, or whatever. And some things that we believe that we are taught in early childhood create values that we put on things in the rest of our life. And it might be a value of other people, might be a value of space, might be a value of education. Has several different meanings, and these things that we are not taught impact on how we build our fences as we grow. If, for example, a father or mother doesn't have a good education and they keep saying that, I never amounted to anything because I don't have a good education, I've never amounted to much because I can't compete on a higher level academically with other people, well, they're building a fence around themselves to restrict themselves, but their children are hearing that. So we're handing that fence onto our children. And our children may not grow up to value education. Now that can work in opposite directions too, because a young person growing up with some common sense and a little bit of foresight can see, well, my father never amounted to anything because he didn't have an education. I'm not going to be in that spot. I'm going to go better than that. Well, that's wonderful and that's great, but that doesn't happen all the time. And anytime you want to jump in there, Sherry, please feel free to jump in.
Well, you know, I was just thinking on that line too, that a lot of children, if they are willing to learn, willing to sit in the classroom, willing to do things, look at the positive of every aspect. Their parents may be at home, maybe they never got an education.
Right.
Sometimes they don't even want to work. They want to stay on welfare because it is a comfortable place for them to be.
Yeah.
But yet their children are going to school, they're getting that education, they're seeing the world around them, what is available to them. So they've pretty much kind of gone on their own.
Right.
Not all children are going to do that.
No.
Many children are just going to watch mom and dad and going to carry on forever is what mom and dad does. So.
Well, this No Fences, the title came from my sister, April, who started and has a No Fences program in Texas, and we're going to work on starting one up here. Her main focus is removing the fences that we build educationally so people that are struggling in high school for whatever reasons, because she's a high school teacher and she's taught at all levels, but she does that and she teaches a lot of children that are struggling, and she's pretty good at that. She's been doing it for a long, long time. And she calls her program No Fences because she wants to remove the fences and the stigma that kids have about themselves. I can't do that. I can't do this. And her and I talk about the example of myself. When I was really young, I failed the 4th grade. Well, failing the 4th grade is not the end of the world. You can grow on from that, you can do well with that and move on. And I was okay with that. But what it also did that I didn't realize until later in high school, it put my sister and I in the same grade. Well, that was fun, but she is a lot smarter than I am, and always has been. And I call that my fence, because all through school, from that point on, I got told, why aren't you as smart as your sister? You're not as smart as your sister. Your sister's a lot smarter than you. Mm-hmm. So I started to build this fence that I was never going to be as good as my sister. And I knew I shouldn't even try, because she was going to be better than me. She was going to have a great grade. She was going to pass every test. I was going to struggle. And I created that situation that stayed with me for most of my, well, not most of it, but a lot of my adult life until I realized what I'd done. And I don't know how many other kids go through that. You know, you have siblings of the same age or in the same class.
I think the percentage is pretty high.
I think it is too, a lot higher. Twins.
Yeah.
Twins in the same grade. I wonder if it's ever known, if we talk about it, or it comes out that is one twin a little smarter than the other twin, and does that held? Why can't you be as good as your brother or your sister as a twin? I think that's pretty scary when you start to think about it. And how do parents deal with that? Well, we got a little example here this afternoon that came from a friend of mine. And she has a 6-year-old daughter. And the other day they were over at the house, and the daughter had told her mother earlier that she needed to be on a diet. And she's already 10 pounds underweight for her. She's 6 years old. So the doctors are looking at, if she doesn't start putting on weight, what are we going to do? Increase her intake of carbohydrates and all that kind of stuff to have her try and get some weight back on, because she's thin, very thin for a little girl, a little person. And her mother asked her why, and she said because she doesn't want to get fat. And she doesn't want to, she wants to fit in with this group that are all thin girls. And they'll talk about this at 6 years old. They're talking about being overweight, which is good. And I'm glad they're health conscious. I wish I was more health conscious. But they're talking about it in such a negative way that it's going to affect their health. So they talked a lot about it, and she wanted to be beautiful. Because like on the ads, like you see on TV with the models and all that kind of stuff. And that's changing, because we see the different size models now on television, which is great to see, because they're not all Twiggies, like back in the Twiggy days. But what she talked about was she wanted to wear clothes that looked a certain style at 6 years old that she couldn't wear if she put on more weight. She needed to have that look that she had in her head, and all her friends, and she had a group of friends, 6-year-olds at school, that get together and talk about fashion. She's surprisingly takes a long time when she can get a hold of makeup. Her makeup has got to be just right at 6 years old. I mean, her mom's put a stop to that now. And we talked a little bit about all that. And we talked about if she's 6 years old and concerned about how she looks and spends so much time putting her makeup on, how do you address that with the parents and with the children? Well, her and I talked, the little girl and I talked in front of the mother about her perception of beauty. And she was all outside, all exterior. Her beauty was all outside, nothing inside her. And we talked about it. And I said, do you realize, and she's 6 years old, so she's thinking like an adult about what her beauty was, so I decided to talk to her as a little adult. And I said, where's your beauty? And she said, it's all on the outside. We talked about that. I said, no, honey, your beauty is in your heart. That's where you're beautiful. And you're beautiful in your head. Your beauty is your perception of what beauty is. And we had to go through and explain what perception is and a few other things. And then she started to cry. She said, you mean I wasn't pretty and beautiful in my heart? I said, no, you weren't, because you moved it to the outside. And she got really sad. She said, I don't want to be a not nice person on the inside. I said, well, you can be. You can be in your heart. So now, when she comes over, I say, where's your beauty? She says, she points to her heart. She points to her heart right away. It's in my heart. It's in my heart. That's my beauty. But my sister wrote back, and I talked to my sister about this, and she wrote back, she said, in my opinion, the mother should use the opportunity to address the concept of healthy lifestyle with her daughter, which is really good, and to making it health rather than looks. I should show her the medical charts that tells her what she should weigh, and then weigh her and show her that she's not in danger of being overweight. So the visual stuff, the tactile stuff is what kids really grasp a lot. And she said, then explain to her that she is a child and it is her job to play and study in school and to obey her parents. It is their job to make sure that she is healthy. So she's not to worry about her looks yet. She's not supposed to worry about adult things yet. Her job is to play, have a good time, and enjoy life, study in school, learn how to spell, and she's very good at her schoolwork and stuff, which is I'm happy about that. And I told the mother and my sister, when I used to live in Asia, the Asians, people where I lived in Singapore for a number of years, they have a thing over there that I thought was amusing. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out why to start with. They let their kids, until 5 years old, pretty much run amok. They scream, holler, get what they want, throw tantrums, kick mom, and it doesn't matter until they're 5 years old. At 5 years old, it stops. Cold turkey. And the kids are told that as they're growing up. Mm-hmm. You know, we want you to be a child and have fun and play as a child, do what you need. What you see, unless you're stealing something, what you can't do, mm-hmm. you can have it. You can play with it. You can do what you want with it. As long as you're not endangering yourself or other people or stealing from other people, nothing's going to be off limits to you. We'll keep you safe. You're to have fun and remember a happy childhood. That's what they want. Their children to remember a happy childhood. But you, as a child, need to understand, when you're 5 years old, it's done. You now have school, responsibility, you do your homework, you come home from school, you take your shoes off when you come in the door, you don't make a mess anymore. If you do, and it's done.
And if you have any time left, then you can play.
And you can play.
But 9 times out of 10, there is no time left.
And I was amazed at that. I sat back and, because my wife at the time, we lived in Singapore, and she said, you know, I couldn't do that. I said, well, first of all, it's a cultural thing, they said. We do that. Everybody does that. Mm-hmm. Our moms and dads and their mom and dads, and I was raised that way at 4 years old, 5 years old, it was a culture shock. We didn't know what hit us. We were told what was going to happen. We understood what was going to happen, but we didn't believe it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And when it did, it was over. And you know, I like the Asian people. They're the ones that I lived with and in those countries, and they're all different. They're like America. They come from all different Asian countries, so they're not all Singaporeans, Malaysians, Filipinos, Japanese, Chinese. They're all there together. And they have that homogeneous mix like we have a homogeneous mix here in the U.S. And they all do it. A little difference now and then, but most of them do the same thing. And they're all fine adults. Their study habits are great. They really study in school and they learn and they have whatever you do at that time is what you focus on. Mm-hmm. When you're at home, you focus on home. When you're at school, it's school. There's no time for play and all this kind of stuff. And hence goes for the politics too. It's all the same. But anyway, that was an example. We talked about it.
You know, this little girl wanting to be all glamorous, wanting to lose weight.
Yeah.
You know, wanting to make sure she doesn't get overweight, whatever. Well, you know, I cannot sit down and watch even an hour program without at least 3 times, if not more, seeing some beauty commercial come on.
Yeah.
You know, overweight, you know, you get these big people walking down the street, you know, and they're talking about being overweight and, and how unhealthy we are in the United States. Or, you know, they have these beauty commercials where people are putting on all these big nasty old eyelashes and that sort of thing. So a lot of kids, that's what they're looking at.
And they see that. And you mentioned on the way up here about the stores during the holiday seasons. Mm-hmm. Selling all these makeups, and you said it. I haven't seen it because I don't look for that stuff. But
they come in real big packages, and they could, you know, five plus gifts that you can get for your children, just things you'll see on the holiday.
Yep.
They're these big old makeup kits for little bitty kids
Wow.
on the shelves. So we have the retailers and things, the wholesalers and the resellers making these things and putting them into the store for our young children to have too.
And that's part of the problem, because I don't believe, and maybe it's because I'm a man, maybe it's because I'm a father, maybe because I have a daughter and I have sons. I don't believe at 5 years old and 8 years old they should be worried about makeup. That's just my personal thing. But then my sister went on to say about the makeup. She says, regarding the makeup thing, most little girls do that, just like little boys try to shave. This is an easy conversion, a conversation with age-appropriate issues. So now we're getting back to where parents need to realize there's age appropriateness. We've talked about that in the past, about building house rules and all kinds of stuff. And it is mostly a question of redirecting the girl's thinking. The girl, because we're talking about a girl at this stage, should not have a problem with mother telling her, yes, girls wear makeup, but not children. And you're not a girl yet. You're a female, but you're not a girl or mature. You're not maturing into a womanhood yet. You're still a child. When she's a teenager, or whenever the mother will approve of it, mom will take her to the store and buy her some makeup and teach her how to use it. Again, I think it is most important is not to overreact. So we need to have some boundaries ourselves as adults. And I don't know whether, I don't believe we overreacted with her when I was telling her about her beauty, where she can find her beauty in her heart, and not getting all emotional about that it's all outside and doesn't mean anything. Or we didn't go negative about it. We weren't negative at all on how we explained to her that her appearance, although it's nice to have, and she's a very attractive little 6-year-old, we didn't say that that's going to make her something she's not, because I think that would have been inappropriate. So we just said that, your beauty is not on the outside, it's on the inside, and now you need to pay attention to that. And that was before I talked to my sister, or I had to change the whole conversation. Not to overreact. She wants the daughter to be open with her, and to be open with her in front of her mother. If she comes on too strong, the child will start hiding things.
Yep. Going into the room, putting the makeup on.
Yep. Or hiding that she's doing things. It could be anything.
Yep.
So many times in our lives, this is a different part about it, but which we're going to talk about in the next show. But the view of no fences comes into play if a young girl, like a 6-year-old, is allowed to do that, to focus on her looks, to focus on her beauty, to focus on her clothes and her attire. And for whatever reason, that goes on for years until she becomes a teenager or a young adult, and that's her value system. School may not become as important, because she's going to, if she is attractive, she's going to become successful up to a certain point with just her looks. People are going to like her, boys are going to go after her, all these things are going to happen. She may struggle in school, or she may be a great student. Well, I hope she would be a great student. But if and when her looks fail her, and that's what she values, she's not going to value anything else. What am I going to become now? I'm not good looking. She's built a fence up that she has to be pretty all the time. She has to have good clothes on all the time.
But if she's, as long as she has those positive influences, positive people in her life that are continuously telling her on a regular basis how beautiful she is, how good she's doing here, how well she's doing there. This might be something we need to work on, this kind of thing. She's got to keep those positive people in her life, and moving forward, that will help her to continue to value where she's at and understand that I am beautiful. I have people telling me I'm beautiful. You know, she's got to understand those people on the outside, they don't know, you know, it's like, you don't know me, you know,
Right.
why are you telling me I'm not beautiful? You don't know me.
Right.
I know I'm beautiful. You know, and then when you can start talking to people and and letting people know, you're positive, you're beautiful. You don't need to tell me I'm not. You don't know me. You
Yeah.
know, just,
Well, and that's fine as long as you're talking like that as a mature woman. And not too many 12-year-olds will think like that.
exactly.
They're going to think their beauty, if this is allowed to happen, is external. Now, I know you're a beautiful person because I know you. And I know my wife is a beautiful person because I know her. And this girl, I know her as well. She's a beautiful little girl, but she's put her value system on her looks. And unless the mom can step in and say that,
Be her positive influence.
be her positive influence, but not so positive with her looks only.
Right.
They're going to have to take the beauty that she has, which could be in schoolwork, it could be in art and drawing, and also that's the age to start to find out their likes and dislikes in reading or drawing or physical stuff. If she wants to be a tomboy, well, this girl, I know her, doesn't want to be a tomboy. Because tomboys get dirty.
Oh, if she's talking like this right now, no, I can see she doesn't, no.
We've
nothing
already
to
been
do-
there.
Yeah, nothing to do with a tomboy.
We've already been there. She is not a tomboy. She likes to come work on my wood shop now and then, but there's limits what she'll do. Everything has to be sort of done for her because she doesn't want to get her hands dirty and she doesn't want to get her fingernails dirty. So we talk a little bit about that, and I make her stick her hands in the mud sometimes, and she doesn't like it, but we got to talk about fences, not putting or allowing children to put fences up around themselves. We are going to put fences up on them anyway. You can't do certain things until you're 18 years old. You can't do other certain things until you're 21 years old. Those are fences we put on them. And society puts those fences on them. But we, as individuals, put fences around ourselves so much more than we ever think about. From driving cars. I mean, I have a 42-year-old son who's getting his driver's license for the first time because he didn't think he could drive. He built a fence around himself that he didn't think he could drive. He didn't want to drive because he was afraid to drive.
So what removed the fence?
It got to the point where he has to do it. And he's forced to do it. And he's doing it, but we'll see how that goes in the future. Because he didn't want the responsibility of it. He didn't want all the things that went with it, all the issues that went along with it. And he built, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. So he started building all these fences. And I don't know how he got away with it for all those years, but he did. Must have had a lot of people, a lot of friends with cars.
Or did a lot of walking.
Yeah, well, he probably did that too. But we have to be careful on the no fences thing, that we don't allow ourselves to build fences around us, and starting at a very early age. We have to be careful how we do that. Kids want to do certain things. We build fences around them to keep them safe from harm. That's one thing that we have to do, and we got to keep doing that. I don't know why this thing keeps going off, but it does. So that's my alarm there. So we're watching our time.
Yep, gotta watch your time.
We as adults need to build fences around children to keep them safe. I'll give you a good example. In Australia, I lived in Australia for a long time. Their doorknobs are about 10 inches higher on the door than our doorknobs in America. And when I got over there, I wondered, because I reached for the doorknob, and I had to come up to get it. I said, what is this going on? I got the doorknobs not where it's supposed to be. And I did it for a while without asking questions. And then I went to another house and it was the same. Went to another house and it was the same. I said, well, okay, why is this? They said, our doorknobs are higher than yours because by the time our children can reach the doorknob, if they go outside, they know that what's safe from danger. they're that much older. They've grown that much taller, and they're a little more mature, and we've had them outside for another year or two before they can reach that doorknob. Now that's common sense.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. So that child the wall is built around the child by us to keep them safe by putting a doorknob 8 to 10 inches higher. Adults can reach it without a problem. A young teenager can reach it. So what's the difference between having it at waist height or have it higher for an adult? And the whole thing protects the child, keeps the child safe. Why that has not come into America, I am so amazed. I know of several parents, and you read about it, the child gets out of the house, right out the front doors a lot of times, walks out into the street and gets killed, plays out in the street, or does something else and gets hurt. When if the doorknob had been 8 or 10 inches higher, that child could not have gotten out of the house.
Unless you were my grandson, he'd go find a stool.
Well, you can't stop creativity. They learn how to do stuff. And if they want what they want, they figure out how to get it. But that's an effort they're going to have to do. So we build fences around our children, which is great, for safety and health, and for them to grow up and live through another day, like seat belts and all this kind of stuff. But for us to let them build fences around themselves, we need to be observant. We need to pay attention to what they're doing. We need to understand what they're thinking about, and we've all been through that as kids. Some of us may not remember too far back, but most of us can remember the things our parents let us do and not let us do, and why they did it, and how we were encouraged and not encouraged. Now, in my example again about being not as good as my sister, I don't think my mom ever knew that. I don't think we went home and told my mom that, well, all the teachers keep telling me I'm not as good as my sister. And I don't believe that. I don't think she knew about that. Had she known about that, she probably would have tried to do something to stop it from happening or whatever, because my mom was a progressive mom. But also, we as children growing up will build our own fences, as I've said several times here. Shorter people don't play basketball. So what? You know, there are a lot of times the shorter people are more fit, and they could do different things. Boys don't do certain things. Girls don't do certain things. Well, within reason, yeah, but why? Who builds those fences? The kids build them themselves. And we have to figure out, watching children, what fences they're building around themselves. Like and we got about a minute and a half here, but I'm not a big believer of putting televisions in children's rooms, in their bedrooms. I think television is an entertainment system, and it's to entertain the family. When a child is in their room, I think they should be reading, studying, playing on a game, doing a board game, something tactile, something visual, or sleeping. A lot of times the television in the room, you tell a child to go to their room for a punishment or a consequence for their action. What punishment are they getting? They're going to the room to watch the same TV they're watching out there. They're doing exactly the same thing they'd be doing in the living room, they're doing it in the bedroom. So what have you done? How have you created an environment of learning when nothing happens? Well, our time, we got 30 seconds left, Sherry. Our time is up for this show. We're going to come back with Early Childhood Part 2, and we're going to discuss this topic further.
Okay.
Thank you very much.